The Toyota Corolla is simultaneously one of the most loved and hated cars out there. Millions of people buy them, and yet you always hear car snobs going on and on about how boring it is and how much they hate it. The truth is that the Corolla is totally fine, especially since it's just been refreshed for the 2017 model year. That said, we have a lot of misconceptions to clear up. The first misconception is that people will say Corolla drivers can't actually drive at all, but it has been scientifically proven that Range Rover drivers are much worse, so there's that. But really, people will tell you that the Corolla is garbage because it feels cheap, and that's also just not true. The Corolla obviously can't match a Lexus or even a Civic in terms of swankiness, but it's not as bad as you've heard. For 2017, it gets a new look that actually gives the sedan a little bit of personality, so it doesn't look as cheap anymore. LED headlights and a backup camera are now standard, but more importantly, the Corolla gets Toyota's safety tech as standard features. Where most other cars in this class make you pay extra for that stuff, the Corolla includes automatic emergency braking with pedestrian detection, lane departure alert with steering assist, adaptive cruise control, and automatic high beams, all as standard equipment. That's a massive deal considering that this car starts at about $18,500. Last year's Maserati Quattroporte didn't even have that stuff, and this one even comes with heated seats, a push-button start, and nav. It also gets higher quality materials for the seats, a redesigned instrument panel with a cleaner design that looks less cheap, and these fancy new circular air vents. The interior is much nicer than something you'd get in a Chevy Cruze, and everything in here is intuitive to use. There's no ambiguity, and there's plenty of room in this cabin. Another misconception is that people will say the Corolla is awful to drive, which isn't 100% true either. You know, in the city, the Corolla is actually pretty great. Off-the-line acceleration is okay, it's easy to see out of, and it's super easy and fuss-free to park. It's when you take the Corolla on the highway where it becomes a little bit depressing to drive. The steering gets extra vague and twitchy, but even worse is that the engine is borderline unresponsive when you're trying to make a pass. The Corolla is powered by a 1.8-liter four-cylinder with 140 horsepower and 126 pound-feet of torque, and that's great in the city, but it's just not very good at higher speeds. It doesn't help that this CVT isn't one of the better ones. You really do get that rubber band effect with this one, but it's still way better than the old 4-speed automatic that it used to have. The upside of that CVT and small engine is that it should get you about 31 mpg combined. I've been driving it around for days, and the fuel gauge has not moved once. And although all of those updates for 2017 make it a much better car, there are a few other things that could be updated too, like the suspension and the rear drum brakes are pretty outdated. So if those were changed, it would make the car a little bit more expensive, but it would also make the drive a lot better as well. Toyota has sold more than 43 million Corollas since the car came out 50 years ago. And if that's not proof that this car doesn't suck, I'm not sure what is. It isn't the most exciting or even the best car in its class, but it has a ton of standard features, it'll last forever, and it's affordable. So the lesson here is to stop listening to all the misconceptions and to start listening to the millions of people who have had Corollas before.